Well, we're so pleased to be here today. It's September 8th, is this right? September 8th, 2012. We're in the Anchorage Museum downtown, and we're very pleased to be able to interview Xeen Maynard, who is the director of the Alaska Native Arts Program at UAF, and I'm Emily Moore, instructing the Contemporary Northwest Coast Native Art course this fall semester. So my students have already read about your work, actually, and they'll be so pleased to see this new installation that just opened at the Anchorage Museum. So Dekai, I was hoping that you could start by telling the students just some of your background and how you came into this artistic practice. What was your training like? How did you get into this path?
Sure. I was born in Fairbanks, Alaska, but ended up kind of splitting my time and going back and forth from Anchorage and Fairbanks, and so I really consider them both my hometown. And kind of had two different lifestyles. I had the urban native experience while I was living here in Fairbanks with my mother, and then had a very rural hippie experience living in Fairbanks. We grew up with no running water, no electricity, no phones, and so it was a very different lifestyle every time I moved through here, and I always felt like I was an artist. I was constantly drawing on long, dark winter nights. I was just drawing all the time. And when I got out of high school, I found a nice scholarship at the Institute of American Indian Arts, and at the time it was a 2-year program. It was in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And if you were accepted in as a Native American person, you were granted a full ride scholarship that included tuition and room and board, and so that really led me into academia and kind of followed along to the career I am. I got my associate's degree at IAIA and then went on to the University of New Mexico, where I got my BFA, and then got my MFA at University of Alaska Fairbanks, where they have a Master's of Fine Arts program in Native Arts. When I discovered that program, I thought, well, that was the appropriate place for me.
Awesome. Well, as you can hear behind us, we have a whole installation, Finding My Song, that Deka just opened here at the Anchorage Museum. And I was hoping you could just give us an overview. There are 3 parts, and in a minute we'll show you the rest of the installation. But could you just give the students an idea of what's behind us here?
Sure. So, when I was conceiving the place, the installation, I was really thinking of it as these 3 segments. And in this first section here, we have a number of sculptures based off of Tlingit fighting daggers. And on each one of the knives, there's a series of them going down and another series of them ascending up. On one side, there's phrases in Tlingit on the daggers, which are kind of going down, and then on the other side, in the mirror of them, are phrases in English coming up. And so I see it as this time of change and transition with the language use. As one language kind of disappears, the other language came up. And then behind me, I've built this structure that I'm calling my longhouse area, or an implied longhouse. And on this side of the house, I have this self-portrait of myself with this particular brand of soap, Nell's Naphtha, and I'd never really heard of this soap before, but it was a story my mother had told me about her going out with grandmother and going to the store and walking through the aisles, and my grandmother going, I can still taste that soap, and it was the soap that was used in the school systems to wash her mouth out when she was speaking Tlingit in the school system. And so this is kind of the side that I see as language is kind of being lost or falling down or being replaced. So this was kind of one of the symbolic blocks for that.
And this kind of double-edged, I know that the Tlingit dagger had the double-edged, but is there a play at all on a double-edged sword for language?
Well, yeah. I think the double-edged knife is always it's just a great metaphor for all kinds of multiples, and so I just love playing with the form, and it's just one of the most beautiful forms I can think of, really.
Can you tell students a little about the process you use to actually make these?
Sure, they're made out of steel. They're thin gauge, cold rolled steel. And I would cut them out with a plasma cutter. So each one is cut out by hand and then kind of assembled in pieces and then welded together using a TIG welder and a MIG welder for that. And I worked construction for a number of years, working my way through school, through the different school systems, and my father is in the construction industry, so it's kind of an area that I just kind of fell into. And there was rusted steel. I think reflects the look of the copper, but also as a reference to this kind of industrial landscape of Fairbanks. It's a town born of gold mining, and there's just rusted metal machinery everywhere you go. It's just kind of a beautiful aesthetic.
Example of, I don't know if the camera can pick up any of these words. Sheesh. Or thank you.
Yes, and then on the other side we've got, and then on this one, the mirror image, we've got thank you, and some of the text bleeds in and out. I was thinking as the words get less used, they do get cut off and kind of disappear. And I chose words that we still use on a daily basis in our family, like Xeen, I love you, Sheesh, Keat, which is my son's name, Gao, so we always use the word Gao for drum, and Goosh, which is the thumb, or Gooshi, which is the killer whale fin, but I just like thinking that Goosh is thumb and Gooshi is the killer whale's fin.
Well, we can continue through. It's an awesome installation to be able to stand in this space and then continue through the two other sections. So when we come into the middle of the longhouse here, we have a silent drum.
Yeah, so, and the installation is really kind of my observation of kind of our family history and how language works and functions with us today and in our past. And so, there did seem to be this time period where nobody was participating in dance and nobody was really participating in language acquisition. And so that's why the drum has no sound in it here. And so, and the images, you get this kind of ghost reflection of the images that are on either side of the outside of the long house, but you don't get a clear image necessarily of one side or the other. And so one side, being that blocking of the language with this soap, this material, this soap, and then the other image taken from this last year's celebration, the 2012 celebration in Juneau, and trying to capture that sense of dance and how, and that sense of movement that you get when on stage and right in front of dancers.
And I remember reading, I think, in Aldona Journitis', or no, I think it was in your artistic biography, and you said your son had gone to celebration and had beat his drum so much that he actually broke through the skin.
Yes, and that was really kind of the inspiration for this last group of works, which are these drum pieces, and he fell in love in 2010 was his first time in that celebration. He was 18 months old, and he just fell in love with drumming and dancing, and my mother had made him a little button blanket, and went, saw the dancing, went to bed. The next night he got up and instantly just ran over and grabbed his blanket and started drumming. And he just played his drum until it pressed through. And as I'm preparing his drum. He just had this little one. And I was thinking about the materials and using these drum skins and thinking about the song. And I've never been a singer or participated on a regular basis in a dance group, but during celebration, I did. So I always kind of faked my way through, like dancing hard, so nobody could tell that I wasn't singing. And this song is the first killer whale song, or the first canoe song. Duck Hawaii. It's one of the documents documents the journey inland and then coming back and coming across the glacier and trying to decide which way to go in the glacier, and then eventually the second canoe song eventually finds her way into the Chilkat Valley, which is part of our migration story with our clan. And so I thought that was an appropriate song to start with. And so there's 18 drums here. Actually, I had 20 for the installation, but once I started putting them up, I was like, not enough room really, so I had to edit 2 of them out. And it starts off with just one voice singing, and then it continues over and over with more voices till at the end all of the drums are singing, and the drums have portraits of myself on there. And I never feel comfortable speaking for anyone else, but my own experiences. So I always do self-portraiture for that reason. And it's also, but it's my my observations of celebration and going back, and over the years, more and more people singing, and more dancing, and more regalia being made, and more young people leading the dance groups, which I find really inspiring. And I'm in my 40s now, and I probably won't ever be a fluent speaker of Tlingit. But the song form is something that I can pass on to my son. And so this was kind of my documentation of learning the songs. And, art is always a reflection of life. Doing the last few years.
It's awesome because when I was in here earlier, I don't know if you noticed, but between the songs there's a time of just breathing. And it was really haunting for me to come in and see these drums suddenly light up and breathe, especially after walking through an installation where there had been a kind of silencing of the drum, and then we had them come to life and sing into it. It's very powerful. The students I know in this class, they're really interested in how crest art and crest rites can be incorporated into contemporary art. So I know on your artist statement at the beginning, you credited this as a Daklawaiti song, is that correct? And
yes,
that to only use it with permission, to not record it.
Right, and I am Daklawaiti, so I feel very comfortable using it for my own work. But it's not my song; it's the clan song, so I don't have rights to give it to anyone. Yeah. So I feel perfectly comfortable using it for my own work, but don't feel comfortable gifting it out to anyone.
Right.
Not my place to do.
It was very powerful. One other thing I know students are very interested in is a kind of play in Northwest Coast Native art, particularly, that has a kind of reputation perhaps of being conservative, of sometimes people being uncomfortable with change in the art forms and ways. And I see in your exhibit you use daggers, you use drums in the songs, and yet there's a play with more contemporary installation, recordings. How do you approach tradition within contemporary Northwest Coast Native art?
Well, I'm a contemporary artist. I do make drums, and I do carve masks, and I have made a series of daggers, copper daggers, but I don't sell those works. Those are kind of cultural items, and I've always felt uncomfortable selling culture. And so my artwork is inspired from my culture and inspired particularly from the incredible beauty of the Tlingit material culture that has been there, and so I use that as a jumping off point for my own expression.
That's a wonderful answer. And just for students who are interested in the Native Arts program at UAF, can you give them an idea of the curriculum there? How does it work, and where do you hope it will go?
Sure. Well, it exists within the, we're really just one room within the art department, and it exists within the art department. We offer BFAs and MFAs in Native Arts. And you follow along with the same curriculum that you would with a BFA in any other form, painting or sculpture. But the focus then would be generally people would just take their advanced classes over and over again in their arts, and you do have to come up with a committee of 3 faculty members to guide you through the BFA or MFA program. It's a fairly small program, and really it's just me now, but I would really like to see it expand into a true center and have multiple areas, or one room that's a carving studio, but Native Arts encompasses so much more. But I do think it's an appropriate place to start because all the cultures in Alaska had a wood carving tradition and had a version of the ads that they used. So I feel that that's a good starting point. But there's so much more: skin processing and sewing and working into and then expanding out into more installation-based works, things like that. Where I would like to see an Indigenous Imaging Center.
I don't really know the mechanics at all because I was only there for 2 years when I was still college of Santa Fe.
Yeah. I have. Well, there's. I guess there's been enough New Mexicans living in. No, I did one other video.